everybody. Let's get this show on the road. Get this music turned down. So, last stream I played Cairo and I did a bunch of isolation, and then that turned me into a Snyder bro. So, on this stream, we're going to be talking about the Snyderverse and how they should restore it. Well, that's not going to happen. If we're being honest, this shit's cooked. All these characters, they're probably gone. I mean, this guy's Lobo, but we'll get into that. So, I wanted to go over each of the movies in the DCEU real quick. Alright, so, and I'm going to kind of go over which ones I like and dislike a little bit while I go over them. I'm not going to go too far into that, but here we go. So, we got Man of Steel, and I like that movie. I have some issues with it, but overall I had a lot of fun with it. The action sequences are really good. I keep forgetting my camera's over here, and I keep looking at my computer. I had some major issues with Batman vs. Superman, but I don't think that I probably hate it as much as other people. I know the Martha thing is quite the meme. I actually had other, I don't know, how they brought in Doomsday and everything. That was like a bigger issue for me. Suicide Squad. Not the biggest fan of this one, not gonna lie. There's parts of it I like, but I really, really, really hated the Joker. And messing up the Joker for me is a big no-no. Wonder Woman, I really liked the first movie. We'll get into the second one. Didn't really care for that one. Justice League, obviously the theatrical release is pretty wonky. I don't even necessarily care about talking about it. So it's just kind of weird. I don't know. Especially after they did the Zack Snyder Justice League. Aquaman, I love. I had a lot of fun with it. It definitely was more of like... It felt more like a Marvel movie than it did a DC movie at the time. Like, they were definitely trying to move away from the quote-unquote Snyderverse vibes, I guess. I don't know. Shazam is probably my favorite movie on this list. Some people might disagree, but Shazam is definitely my favorite movie on this list. Birds of Prey, it's okay. I thought they should have gotten harder in the paint with the R rating and made it more like a female Deadpool. The cartoon that came out was kind of like that, and I feel like that would have been a much better vibe. Wonder Woman, that happened. The Suicide Squad, I actually like more than Suicide Squad. And I know a lot of people, debate about which one's better online, but yeah, for me it was the Suicide Squad. That was definitely the better of the two films. Zack Snyder's Justice League. Hot take. Not like the biggest fan of it, but I liked it a lot. It's somewhere, like, I don't know, maybe it was just like a little bit too much of an art piece for me, whereas I kind of just wanted, a better version of the original Justice League movie. But overall, obviously, much better than that movie. Yeah, I see some 10 out of 10s in here. Okay. Black Adam. I actually had a lot of fun with this movie, but I will come back to it in just a little bit whenever I start talking more about this. Because, I don't know, I had some mainly one real issue with that movie. And I'll talk about that later, though. Shazam, Fury of the Gods, kind of a throwaway. Definitely not near as good as the first movie. Overall, just kind of a disappointment. And then The Flash, I will talk more about later. I really hated this movie. Yeah, it was definitely a disappointment for me. Now, these last two films, actually, Blue Beetle, I had a ton of fun with. I really like Blue Beetle. And I know there's a lot of people that are kind of like either just haven't seen it and kind of lump it into this like end of the DCEU era, and but like it stands alone on its own, and yeah, I don't know, it was pretty good. It's a pretty good movie. Aquaman 2, I kind of feel the same way. The first Aquaman is a little bit better of a film maybe, but I don't know, had a lot of really good action set pieces in it. Had a lot of fun with it. I would highly recommend both Blue Beetle and the second Aquaman movie. Like, I wouldn't sleep on them, especially with everything being like kind of dead in the water. No pun intended, Mr. Aquaman. Yeah, I would highly suggest watching those. So, anyways, realistically, the Snyderverse is not coming back. I'm not going to hide the ball too much on that. Obviously, they're not restoring the Snyderverse. I'm sorry if that hurts anybody's feelings, but that's just kind of the reality of the situation. But now that we've covered the movies, I want to talk about a couple ancillary things that are like connected to it, and it's gonna kind of lean into the broader point of what I mean by restore the Snyderverse in this stream. Let's see. All right. So, if anybody followed the DC CW universe, you know they did a Crisis on Infinite Earths special. And in that special, hey, look at that guy. That's the Flash from the DCEU. Now, this scene was really weird. But, like, it made the connection. Like, they did something with it. And it was, at the time, I really thought that they were just kind of going to continue the Crisis event into the films, like, a couple years later. And that never ended up happening. And it was just a bunch of fanboy dreaming. But, like, it's their fault that I had all those fanboy dreams. So, one little point while I'm talking about the Crisis event. They had Kevin Conroy in this, and they did not put him in the Batman suit. And I think that that's just, like, super unforgivable. Yeah. Yeah. That's all I had to say about that. Outside of that, the CW stuff had kind of grown stale for me, so I watched the Crisis event, but I wasn't necessarily caught up on everything going on in the other shows and stuff like that. So it was fun, but I don't know, it always felt like it fell short, and that it was like maybe a predecessor to like a film version. So other projects are the first season of Peacemaker. Now, I don't know if they had... I can't remember if there was anything else, really, that, like, connected to the DCEU. Like, I'm sure there's, like, comics and stuff like that. But, like, for the sake of what I'm doing here, the main two things I wanted to bring up were Peacemaker Season 1, and I wanted to bring up... that connection in the Crisis event on the CW. So where does that leave all these characters? Well, dead in the water, pretty much. We've heard some rumors of Henry Cavill coming back in a different role outside of Superman. Well, I guess it's more... I don't want to say rumors. It's James Gunn kind of pontificating on the question asked by the interviewer. But and then we know Jason Momoa is coming back as Lobo. So as for like the actual vision of the Snyderverse, though, like what was that to people? Like, because I hear restore the Snyderverse a lot, and it's like, are you just asking for the like the next Justice League movie, or do you want like a full Like, because, like, Zack Snyder's vision, I do believe, was mainly through that Justice League format. He wasn't really doing a lot of the other films, a lot of the ancillary stuff. Um, we get back to here and it's like this right here, this and this. That's the Snyderverse. Like, we got all this stuff going on around him, but realistically, we got like a trilogy that doesn't have a capstone. You know, it didn't get to become a saga. They didn't get to finish the saga, and that's where it bums me out. That's where, like, for me, I'm like, hey, like, you guys could have done something here. I think, and it seemed like they were leading up to it, but they didn't actually get to do it. And that brings me to this point, which is the end of all of that, and Black Adam. Now, my complaint about Black Adam is I had a lot of fun with, like, the visuals in that movie. I thought that the story was okay, but, like, The Rock should have just been The Rock in the movie. Like, Black Adam didn't need to be like this stoic Terminator-esque character. Like, he should have been kind of over the top. I kind of imagined like an evil Thor going into that movie, but then they didn't do that. So, like, even though I liked the movie, like, I definitely had some issues with it. But the most important thing is this. Now, whenever I saw this and whenever I see this, it's like, that's Superman in a lot of ways to me. Like, that's the Superman that I was expecting. That's the Superman that we had been waiting for. And I really do believe that Henry Cavill wanted to make a Superman movie that was almost more in line with what James Gunn ended up making. So that's kind of the sad part about all of this, is it's like we probably could have just, gotten a continuation of this Superman with a completely different tone, and it would have been fine. So these guys, they come in, they take everything over, and they make everything kind of a clusterfuck for, like, I don't know, a year for everybody. But, that's kind of the job they had. One thing that, like, I hadn't really thought about until recently was just budgetary scale if they would have continued doing what they were doing. Like, how much would you have been paying for The Rock? How much would you have been paying for Henry Cavill? How much would you have been paying for all of these actors? So, like, I kind of understand the reboot from, like, a financial standpoint. That's for sure. How they went about the reboot, I think, is the bigger problem for me. So, we get back here, and Black Adam's released, and then we get these 4 movies. So we got Shazam, and that flops real hard. Kind of on its own merit. It's not that great of a movie. Also, I do not think James Gunn did any favors. But then we get to something like The Flash. And The Flash, with its ending, I feel like they could have, like, had a little fun with that. I think that they could have definitely used that ending in The Flash to explain what's going on with these 2 characters better. I think that bringing just Peacemaker and Blue Beetle in, even as a fan of Blue Beetle, I just think that was kind of a weird choice. So, in Peacemaker, it just felt like it was James Gunn bringing his friend over into his new universe, which, I don't know. I'm not necessarily opposed to. Like, I don't know. We'll get to that in a second. So, this is where we're at. This is where we are at today. This is our new Superman. This is our new DCU. And to really stick that point home, these characters, gone. That guy, Lobo. These guys, replaced. in a cameo sequence, which is real weird. Um, I'm not sure how I feel about that. So, getting back to what I was saying about the Flash, uh, I don't see why, at this point, they didn't just do a crisis event. Um, I do think that some of it had to do with budget. I think some of it had to do with them just not wanting to play in that wheelhouse anymore and James Gunn wanting to start fresh, which I kind of respect and I understand. Like, things weren't going well. It's not like they were making money hand over fist. Um, the comic book genre kind of needed to become cheaper to produce in some ways. But that's where, you bring a guy like Grant Gustin in and maybe get rid of the high dollar of Ezra Miller. And then you can kind of do your Crisis Event 2.0 in film version. And so we can't do that now unless maybe we don't worry about these guys. This guy's gone. We're replacing him in the film. Um, he's running through time. Maybe the ending of Aquaman 2 isn't. Or wait, no. Maybe the post-credit scene of The Flash isn't the last time he's running through the timeline and screwing things up. So maybe we start a film and then that dude, or that version of The Flash, you just have him masked up so you can't actually see his face, but everybody knows who he is. And then, yeah, kill him off. Have the other Barry run by, see it happen, go into the film. And then I got these two. I got question marks on them. If you can get them back, cool. Maybe you can have them have some kind of role in the movie. I think if you're going to do a crisis event, you could probably have Batman showing up and kind of warning everybody in the new universe. But the main point is, I don't see why we don't just do a crisis event now that Superman's kind of successful, like the new one. Like, maybe in a couple years we get like a No Way Home situation. Maybe in a couple years we get Henry Cavill coming back, and maybe we'll say the Anti-Monitor and Darkseid, or Darkseid. I said it wrong. I'm gonna get in trouble. Darkseid, are pulled over into this other universe to and they're kind of going around destroying everything, and then we get this Superman has to kind of do the injustice thing, and then the new Superman convinces them to be good and blah blah blah, and and then they take down the Anti-Monitor and they take down Darkseid, and I don't see why we can't restore the universe in that way. I mean, we saw them kind of do it with No Way Home, and that was also kind of the bummer part about this is whenever James Gunn took over, I genuinely thought that he was going to beat Marvel to the punch with Secret Wars by doing a crisis event, intro his new Superman in a film, introduce his new Justice League in a film, but it has all these other Justice League characters, and then it has all the different versions of the Flash coming back from the TV show, or I can never say his name right. I think it's Alan Richmond. He played Aquaman on Smallville. Have that dude come back as Aquaman. At the end of this crisis event, you could have had Grant Gustin Flash. You could have had your new Superman. You could have had Alan Richmond Aquaman. Pick and choose your Batman at that rate, or get a new Batman. Maybe somebody a little bit cheaper. I feel like there was ways for them to kind of go this Marvel route before Marvel really got there, and they kind of dropped the ball on that. So, I'm sorry to say it, guys, But I don't think that Restore the Snyderverse is gonna go anywhere outside of like maybe some ancillary comics and stuff like that. Um, it would be cool maybe to get some kind of like animated version. But realistically, your best hope is probably wait for AI to get good enough and then make your own Justice League 2 movie. So, I'm sorry, but they're not gonna restore the Snyderverse, and I doubt that they're even gonna do this crazy plan of bringing back Henry Cavill as Superman to be evil in a crisis slash injustice scenario. Was the title of this stream clickbait? You decide in chat. Let's go. Or another studio buys DC. Uh, Even if another studio buys DC, do you think that they're going to spend the money to restore the Snyderverse? Do you think that that's like a good return on investment? Like, I just feel like, you're talking about some big names. Like, the fact that Momoa came back for Lobo, like, I wonder what his pay looks like for that, you know? Like, did he take a pay cut to be Lobo because he loves the character and wants to do it so bad? I don't know. It was absolutely clickbait. Yeah, it was. Oh, yeah, I'm kind of an asshole. Um, but yeah, I mean, like, realistically, like, what are we gonna do here? I even if like there was rumors of like Universal buying, but that's not gonna happen. I doubt that's gonna happen. I doubt that they're gonna restore the Snyderverse if somebody else buys it. Ugh. It's one more movie with these collection of actors, and it doesn't have to solely focus on them. But Crisis on Two Earths, no. All right, all right. I mean, like, I guess I see where you're coming from. Where like it would be cool if you could just get one more film out of this group of actors. I just don't like. I don't know. I don't like Ezra Miller's Flash enough for that. Like, I like a lot of the other stuff, but like, you know, I don't know if it's worth it. Henry Superman is the villain of the new Superman series. Well, yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, I mean, like, if they wanted to kind of go the Crisis route again, they could easily just make him the bad guy. I mean, and then like towards the end of the movie, he puts on like, uh, you know, the suit at the end of Black Adam, and then they both go fight together, and you do like the whole No Way Home thing or something like that. However, what? You FBI posting in here? I'm telling you, James is bringing in Zach, and he's bringing back Henry to be Injustice Superman, and he killed the whole DC, and he's trying to take Lois for himself. That's a take. I don't know, like, Yeah, that's. I mean, that's kind of what I was saying. I would definitely have like the anti-monitor in there and have Darkseid in there as well. I told myself like so many times before the stream, like don't accidentally say the meme of Darkseid, and then I did it. So that was great. No, Gunn and Zack are best friends. Yeah, I think they get. I wouldn't be surprised to see Zack Snyder come back in some capacity to work in DC. I just don't know if it would be within his universe. Uh, you know, we are. They are not. Yeah, I mean, I know the Injustice storyline well enough, and like that's what I'm saying. Like, I would take elements of that. I would take elements of Crisis. If you're ever talking about like truly restoring any semblance of the Snyderverse, I think that that's kind of the move. I mean, like, if you look at what they were doing before that, I mean, they had stuff on Titans. It was like Beast Boy, where he was seeing like all these different spots through the multiverse and stuff like that. I mean, like they had a ton of that. I mean, they did a Crisis event on CW. Um, so there was all these different ways that they could have done a Crisis event, and I still think that that was the move. I really think that that Crisis event could have basically been their Secret Wars before Secret Wars. Crisis on two Earths. That yeah, even that would be fine. Yeah, I think that you could have just done that. Crisis on two Earths, which is or with the Snyderverse versus the Gunverse. I think that could have worked. Um, I mean, like, would you make them the crime syndicate then, and would like or would you just have it be like the two different factions fighting against each other? How about no the hero? Oh, I don't want the anti-monitor in there or Darkseid. I think that it should just be Henry Cavill as Injustice Superman. He's gotten so powerful and gone crazy that he is figuring out a way to rip into another universe, hell bent on bringing Lois back, 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 back. Yeah, I don't know. Um, I mean that's an option. That's a take. I don't necessarily like disagree with that too much. Um, I just think that it would be better like to have that Superman get to have that redemption at the end, and I think like to have a different big bad in there for him to go after would be like the move. So yeah, I think I just disagree on that. I have not watched any of Titans yet. Titans was pretty good. I didn't mention it whenever I was going over all of my stuff, like about how I would technically like quote unquote restore the Snyderverse. I mean, for me, it is like mainly about bringing Henry Cavill in as an evil Superman, and then having him have his redemption arc, and maybe even have like a sacrifice himself moment. I think that that would just be really cool. Um, I don't even know if I don't know. Like I think that it would be good, and then you could like have a different way of bringing in all these other actors and stuff. Because Cavill's going to cost you some money, so like maybe you can get Grant Gustin for a little bit cheaper. Not to downplay him as an actor or anything like that. Like he's great, but like, just living in reality. Um, yeah, so like you could bring back all these other characters. So, what redemption arc? Oh, like so if like maybe I didn't explain this very well earlier. Like the concept I was trying to portray was like Darkseid and the Anti Monitor maybe like teamed up in a way, or like maybe the Anti-Monitor is like kind of like using Darkseid as like a, you know, like horseman of the apocalypse, for lack of a better term. And then, you know, he's still got evil Superman on his side, so they're running around the multiverse wreaking havoc. And you know, they end up in the now DCU universe, and then that becomes the storyline there. So his redemption arc would be like him turning on Darkseid and the Anti-Monitor and helping the heroes win at the end of it, type of thing. He saved the world. Yeah, but there's different interesting ways you could like you can do stuff with that like later if you want. Like you don't necessarily like I mean people die in comics, heroes die and come back in comics all the time. So like yeah, maybe he does make what everybody sees as the ultimate sacrifice, but then maybe like you do a thing later where there's like a bunch of different Supermen showing up and stuff, kind of like they did on the Crisis show, or on the CW with Crisis, and then you have like Henry Cavill come as Superman Prime or something crazy, like you know. So there's different ways to bring him back, even if he quote unquote sacrifices himself in that moment. Make Corn Sweat Superman evil. I mean, the way he was yelling at Lois, maybe he is. Maybe we're just not watching a universe with a good Superman. Yeah, I mean, like that's a take. I'm fine with that take. I see. I guess I look at it a little bit differently because like I'm looking at it from like what Cavill would like to do with the character, where we left off with that version of Superman, and then like so in my mind it's like okay, we're leaving him off as evil Superman in the doom or in the the doomed uh, future or whatever, but then like we get to bring it around to where Cavill gets to play the like more uplifting version of Superman towards the end of the film, I guess. It was kind of my thought process behind that. Why? You don't want to watch Cavill beat the shit out of Corn Sweat for a while? Don't put Cavill or don't put Corn Sweat versus Cavill on screen. It will not go. No, that's what I'm saying. Like have him show up and wreck shop. Like that it will not go well. 100%. I want this Superman to show up and it be like, you know, Super Saiyan 1 Goku versus Super Saiyan 3 Goku or something. Like he's just beating the shit out of him. Grant has recently said in two different interviews that he wants to play the Flash and that he does not want to play anybody else if he was to get back. He's only going to be the Flash or go back. Yeah, I mean like it's a weird situation because like we've seen so many actors like play dual roles, and also like I mean, Jason Momoa, whenever he was called to be Aquaman, thought he was going there to be Lobo. So, like, I understand him being like, I want my dream role. So, like, I don't know. I don't really care about that part of it. Like, if they want to come back as different stuff, I mean, we've watched that happen so many times. I mean, the guy who played Brandon Routh, he played the Atom and Superman on the CW after being in Superman Returns, so yeah, that doesn't bother me. I think if they went the route Gunn knows David, or went that route, Gunn knows David can't beat Henry. They would have Lois and Batman to end up defeating Superman at the end. Yeah, so like that's kind of what I mean. Like I feel like if Henry Cavill's evil Superman shows up, it's not just gonna be like David Cornsweet Superman versus Henry Cavill Superman. I think that it's like everybody. It's gonna be more like that sequence from the Justice League movie where everybody's trying to take down Superman. I'm imagining that, but with like a different cast of characters. Like, in my head, it's like Grant Gustin or somebody shows up and he's warning this universe of like, hey, this guy's coming and you guys gotta, prepare or something kind of like similar to Infinity War with the Hulk. Um, that character could be Batman, that character could be Cyborg, that character could be whoever. That's just kind of like where my brain was at with that. So yeah, it would definitely not just be like, David Cornsweet is shown to be a, quote unquote weaker version of Superman, I guess, in some regards. So like, yeah, I would definitely have him be like, or Henry Cavill showing up wrecking shop. Like that would be the vibe. So let's see. Sorry, my eyesight's terrible. I'm trying to read all these. Oh, I can't sit up. Oh, I'm getting old. All right. Did I watch Superman and Lois? No, I've seen clips of it. I was kind of out of the CW universe by that point, and I know that it's kind of like in its own world. I do plan on going back and watching it. Uh, this is kind of a funny complaint because I just made the same complaint about the DCU. I just hate whenever like storylines and stuff don't get like that nice like book ending, I guess. Um, and that's kind of like my whole point with everything with the Snyderverse and stuff like that. It's like, how do we get that book ending outside of just like a comic book or like some fan made project? And I think like this is the closest we're gonna get. I mean, it's kind of the same way with like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. I think the closest thing we're gonna get, sadly, even though I would love to see him in another solo Spider-Man movie, is like his cameo in No Way Home. Like that's kind of what's happening. So, still haven't seen the new Superman movie. I'll talk about that in just a minute. Hold on. Well, everybody's asking about. Two seasons. Oh, sorry, I kind of went on a tangent about that. I was kind of waiting out that Superman and Lois show to see if they did bring back like all the characters from the CW stuff for like one last go around, and they didn't, which is fine. But I also didn't want to like hype myself up again for another like event, like I did kind of like with the DCU. Um, so I was like, I'm gonna give myself a little space before I watch that one. What did I think of the new Superman movie? I liked it overall. The pacing was a little bit weird, and I could have done with like a little less of the like gun vibe. I thought he did a good job holding that gun vibe back. Hold on. But I could have done with less of it even. Like I do feel like I don't know, like I really liked the tone of uh, Black Adam in a lot of ways. And so I was kind of excited to see like a Superman movie in that tone, like that like more I don't know, I guess like traditional MCU film vibe. And I know that sounds kind of like shitty, I guess, but like when you think back on like the Infinity Saga and stuff like that, we were getting a lot of movies that just hit the vibe of the character. And I felt like the world that Black Adam presented would have been a really good vibe for a Superman movie. Um, I don't like. I really like a lot of Man of Steel, but like there are some I wish that they would have done more of a hopeful Superman in that world. Like, it's not necessarily like, I think the movie looks fantastic. I mean, the cinematography of that movie is awesome. Um, but there's just some tonal things that I think would have been better with Man of Steel. And then like, yeah, I don't know. The gun one, it's okay. Like, I like parts of it. It's hard for me because like, for me, like, I grew up watching Smallville. That's probably the like quintessential Superman in my mind. And then like, even going into this gun movie, everybody was like, "Oh, it reminds me so much of Smallville. Oh, it reminds me so much of Smallville." And then I got in there and like, I can see why people liked the version of Lex Luthor that they presented. Um but it was a little screechy for me. It was a little like douchey. I don't know a good way to like say it. Besides that, um, being a real good internet streamer with my broad vocabulary. Um, but yeah, I really liked the like one-sided struggle for power in Smallville between Lex and Clark. So like, I was kind of disappointed going into the movie that there wasn't like a relationship between Clark and Lex in some regard. Like, I I I don't know. So like, I was kind of like indifferent to Lex Luthor, but I liked how evil they made him at the same time. And if it would have been the same type of Lex from Smallville, him being like that would have been weird. So like, why I get why they did that. Let's see. I think this Superman is more cynical than Man of Steel. Like the character himself, that's an interesting argument. I haven't heard that. Let me think on that for just a second. Like, if you're just talking about the character of Clark, I can kind of see where you're coming from. Like, I can kind of like, they definitely like, I don't think they like, I think David Cornsweet himself is great for Superman. I think like, and it's kind of a funny thing because it's like, I feel like for a lot of people, they have like, I'm trying to think of a good way to, they have this idea of Superman in their head that doesn't necessarily line up with either Henry Cavill or David Cornsweet. And I think that that version of Superman probably aligns more with something like um, the old Justice League cartoons. Because, like, that's the DC universe for me. Like, the DC universe that I like a lot is the DC universe, um, the animated stuff that started with the Batman 90s cartoon. Like, if somebody sat me down and said, "Hey, you get to pick one DC universe and that's it," that's probably the one I would pick. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are kind of like, they wanted that version of Superman. Um, and that's what I saw at the end of Black Adam. I mean, like, here, let me try and go back and find this picture. I tried to be all organized, and it went okay. I didn't really. I should have prepped more, maybe. Maybe like wrote some stuff down. But yeah, like this Superman, like, and you know, people look at stuff and they fill in the blank of what they want out of something so often, myself included. And whenever I saw this, to me, I was like, "Oh, that's the cartoon. That's the cartoon brought to life. That's what I want. Hell yeah, here we fucking go." And so whenever that got ripped away, I was like, "What is going on?" Like, because I really expected James Gunn to come in and just like fix everything instead of just rebooting everything. And I was like, he's the guy to do it. He's good at going in and like working in the wheelhouse and stuff like that. Now there was a ton of different stuff behind the scenes that, made that probably not happen. And I do wonder if some of that is just like, I don't know. I think some of it might just been budgetary. That is totally off. What do you. Wait, hold on. Maybe I'm reading out of context. Hold on. Here we go. Okay. When I was watching all of the Lex scenes, I can guarantee you the actor was watching, like, Andrew Tate, the Manosphere guy. Yeah, maybe. I thought it was more of like a commentary on like rich, out of touch billionaires, like an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos or something like that. Or maybe it's just his interpretation from the comics. I mean, I don't really want to get. I'm not. I don't want to do all that. I don't want to get too far into the politics of the new Superman movie. Um, Mainly out of like, I want to say like necessarily respect for James Gunn, but like he's going out there and saying, hey, it's not really about X, Y, or Z, so I'm going to try and take his word for it. Um, but like, yeah, if I had to pinpoint it, so that's kind of what I'd say. You think they're setting up for President Lex? Yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like that, but I don't know, maybe. I think a different Lex Luthor portrayal would have been a better setup for something like that. It is super. Amanda Waller summoning Superman to fight Black Adam is nasty. What do you mean by it's nasty? I'm going to wait you out because I'm curious to see what you say. I don't think Lex and Clark were friends in the comics, especially before Lex knew Clark was Superman. I think that is something Smallville did for their story. Oh yeah, I should probably. Maybe I didn't clarify very well. It was more about the like. I liked Smallville a lot, and whenever we were leading up to the release of Superman, a lot of people were saying that it reminded them a lot of Smallville, and like that vibe I didn't necessarily get from the movie. Like it just felt like a James Gunn. So like it didn't necessarily need them to be friends. I just needed like I wish it would have been, I don't know, maybe a little less manic, maybe a little more that one-sided like struggle for dominance is like the thing that like Smallville really like pushed really well. And it's like they did that in the new one to an extent. Like yeah, obviously that's kind of the plot of the movie, but it's just like the way it was portrayed was a little like, I don't know. I wish Lex wouldn't have been so like antsy and stuff like that. Like it almost reminded me like somewhere between like what I would expect of Lex Luthor and the Jesse Eisenberg Lex Luthor, which I was not a big fan of. Um, Now, what he looked like at the idea of what Jesse Eisenberg Lex Luthor looked like at the end of the Snyder cut wasn't too bad. I think that could have been done really well. Superman would never work with Amanda Waller, as seen in Justice League Unlimited. It is spelled out. Yeah, I mean that part's a little bit weird, but like I also feel like they could have like written around that where it's like he wasn't necessarily doing it for her or her team as much as he was just like, yeah, I do gotta go check on this Black Adam guy. So like she pointed him in that direction, and then he happened to already be on it his way, and then Amanda Waller's just using the situation to talk out of her ass, type of thing. Sure, yeah, I hear. Especially canonically, she was outed for using Peacemaker and two sets of Suicide Squad. Um, yeah, no, I kind of agree. Like that is a little wonky. I do think they could have just wrote around it though. You know, she starts trying to give Superman orders, and he's like, no, bye. I was just using your intel. Or he just happened to be on his way, and then like, I don't know. I can't remember the dialogue in that sequence necessarily though, so maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. I think Jesse Eisenberg was doing a cross between Edward Nigma and Lex. Yeah, I mean, like, he would have been an awesome Riddler. Like, Jesse Eisenberg, I mean, still be an awesome Riddler, honestly. If they wanted to bring him back into the fold of the DC universe, I would highly suggest the Riddler. Like, that's maybe, like, his perfect casting for him. So, I was gonna do, like, a little rant on, the different like the box office of the new Superman movie. I thought about it. Hold on. Maybe I still will. Let me do something real quick. Do I still have that on here? Okay. If you guys can bear with me for like just a second, I am gonna go use the restroom, and then I will be right back. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, this is okay. So, if you're looking at, and like I'm an armchair expert. I'm just some nerd. Um, that has a shadow on his face from his microphone. I just noticed. But anyways, um, yeah, I'm not an expert on this stuff. But I've always kind of stood by and jokingly memed that Gone with the Wind is still the king of the box office. Um, Now that movie went back into theaters like multiple times. Like film was at a different point in its history. Like movies went back into theaters like a lot back then. Um, so like it kind of got to, you know, build up and stuff. And so whereas I'm going to throw the restore the Snyderverse everybody a bone whenever it comes to the numbers, I will also say I'm curious because like it's a different time for superhero movies in general right now, and it's a different time for like film in general. Like even the Minecraft movie making nearly $1 billion, like that wouldn't be the same number when Man of Steel came out, and that's fine. Like that's okay. But when you're looking at like worldwide ticket sales, Man of Steel's like somewhere between 112 and 122 million, and then the new Superman movie is at like 64 to 67 million. So like I don't know, like a little bit more than half. Is that right? But like, that doesn't look good on paper. Now, I will say the movie industry is a lot different than it used to be. I mean, streaming is a thing. People are just expecting to get to see those movies at home a lot sooner. People are just not going to the movie theater as often as they used to. But, you got to be like, take that into account because it's like, hey, are we like just cooked in general? Like, is the superhero genre just kind of like, is the comic book movie thing just kind of dead in the water? Are we just dead in the water? Are we cooked? Because I hope not, because I love this stuff. I mean, I've been following it for years, so I really would be super bummed if we were kind of like just cooked. So, um, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 made 845 million. Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine made 1.3 billion a year ago. Yeah, it's just like every other. So like Superman movies, like back in the day, like they, obviously did really well, but like Man of Steel, even at the time, I mean, it wasn't really considered like a smash hit at 670 million. Um, so like Superman in general just doesn't like. I don't think it brings like as much clout at the box office. It's kind of like a Pokemon situation. Like Pokemon is a huge franchise, but if you look at like how that Detective Pikachu movie did, it didn't do like huge numbers. I think it was fairly successful, but it didn't do huge numbers. It was a $290 million improvement from Superman Returns. Well, here, hold on. I know Man of Steel did better than Superman Returns. Superman Returns did not do well at all. How many? Yeah, Superman Returns did like 60 million. Yeah, global. Um, tickets, tickets sold. So like, I'm just looking specifically at tickets sold. Are people coming out to the box office and stuff like that? Deadpool and Wolverine's an interesting one. Like that one really kind of caught me off guard whenever it did so well. To be honest, um, like I kind of see it just because like it's Deadpool and it's fun and it's ridiculous, and I mean I'm even wearing the shirt, so thanks for bringing it up. Um, but like yeah, that one really shocked me at how well it did considering everything else going on in the industry with comic book movies in general. And it makes me wonder if it's like because it's more of a comedy movie that it like really did as well as it did. Um, I do worry and wonder if like can they get people to the movies for serious comic book movies anymore, or is like Deadpool like the last thing that's going to be hitting the $1 billion mark? Like I even worry about like Doomsday and Secret Wars and stuff like that. Like unless they can make these like movies like cultural moments for like the general populace again, like we're yeah, I worry about it. You know, I hope I'm wrong. Like again, I'm not like I don't know. So, but ever since Superman the movie, it has declined. Well, yeah, that's what I was kind of saying. Is it's like Deadpool and Wolverine kind of makes sense making that money because like it's Deadpool and like it's jokey and it's funny. But then like whenever it comes to uh, Superman, like even Fantastic Four, I felt the same way. Like I was nervous about Fantastic Four. I was shocked with Captain America. I honestly thought Captain America, like I jokingly said $1 billion beforehand, but like I thought it was gonna land around 700 to 800. And that's with like ticket price inflation and all that. So I was like, okay, yeah, people, not as many people are gonna see it, but it's still gonna make like this much money. Um, Fantastic Four. I feel like those movies could have been swapped, like with release. I feel like Fantastic Four coming out like in the like I don't know season, and then Captain America coming out like right around 4th of July, like, and maybe they would have had more time to work on Captain America and make it a little bit better. But they had to get Thunderbolts out. They had to get so it's just like that's another thing with the interconnectivity that they kind of like screwed themselves on. Um, so for Snyder to do, almost. Oh, I'm not saying like yeah. I mean like Man of Steel was like successful for the most part financially, but even at the time, 670 million for a big tentpole superhero movie was not considered like great. We're talking about the time where like everybody was going to see these movies. Really, it's not like now we're in the midst of like a fatigue era for the most part, outside of like a couple movies here and there that still pop off, like a Deadpool and Wolverine. But like there are a lot of other factors as to why Deadpool and Wolverine in particular popped off the way that it did. I mean, you had Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine. That was huge. People love the comedy of Deadpool, so it's just like a fun roller coaster ride of a movie. So like outside of that movie, like there's not like a ton of like and like yeah, Guardians did well, but even then we're seeing the fatigue since then. And then like Guardians had the benefit of becoming like this big mainstay name, like while the superhero genre was just like completely popping the fuck off. I mean, like it's just everything's just so much different right now in particular, and Superman's not as big of a name as people make him out to be. Like us comic book nerds, you mentioned Superman, and everybody's like, yeah, and everybody knows the name of Superman. But I'd honestly argue there's probably just as many Superman haters out there as there are people that like Superman. Have you seen the stuff coming out about Clayface? It looks excellent, and they're making this for 40 million. Imagine if Clayface on 40 makes 80% of the revenue. Yeah, like, well, and that's the thing is, even all that being said, like, comic book movies are being made for cheaper than they used to be, even if the number looks bigger. Because, like, I'm talking just like standard just inflation on ticket prices whenever I'm talking about the inflation and stuff like that. Um, you know, Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine. Hold on. It was important to complete the DCU because Marvel got to tap into nostalgia. Oh yeah, I mean like that's kind of my argument too. Is like I genuinely thought that they should have done a Crisis event and then they would have beaten Marvel to the punch whenever it came to Secret Wars. Like they could have done a Crisis event in some way that would have a capstone to the DCEU and then ended with like a new set of heroes, and then you got like, you know, find a way for all these different heroes to Henry Cavill Superman and stuff like that. Say you're like, okay, we got David Cornsweet, he's going to be the new Superman, but like you work that into your Crisis event, like I think that would have been the better move, and then they would have beaten Marvel to the punch in a lot of ways with a lot of these different. Or yeah, Flashpoint done correctly. Yeah, I mean that was the thing is like that Flash movie was like such a clusterfuck, and then like you could at least use it to do something. Yeah, like a Flashpoint. I thought that it was going to be the excuse to do a Crisis event. I thought that was the move, and even some of the stuff James Gunn was saying kind of made me think that. So, maybe we'll see. Toxic Avenger, not gonna watch it probably. Maybe I'll watch it. I don't know. That's why DC. Well, yeah, I mean, like, that's the whole thing with the new setup is that it's supposed to be DC as its own studio. Um, Warner Brothers has definitely, like, ruined a lot of what was going on with DC. I just expected Gunn to come in and fix it more than to just, completely reboot it or, like, haphazardly reboot it because Peacemaker's still there. I don't know. Take that for what you will. Yeah. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe one day Universal is going to buy the rights to DC, and then they're going to restore the Snyderverse to try and bolster a streaming platform like HBO Max did with the first Snyder cut. I mean, like, maybe. So, I think Gunn knows he will not survive if they sell. I don't know if DC survives in the current mode that it's in, period. Like, I don't, like, if they sell and they don't continue, like, the DCU that James Gunn's doing, like, maybe they take it over and they continue it on their own with, like, a different lead or something like that. But if they do that, like, I think it's just going to be another 5 to 10 years before we get any. I think we'll just see like an ending of the DCU in the same way that we saw the ending of the DCEU, where it's like maybe they'll put out a couple of those final projects, but then at the end of the day, they're just going to reboot it again. Like, I don't know. I think that's what's going to happen. I'm going to make sure I didn't miss anybody's chats up here. Oh, Clayface. I wanted to talk about that real quick, just for a second. I haven't seen much about it yet. I'll probably look into it whenever I get a chance. But I was really confused about Clayface because I thought that they were going to do like a... I thought that was originally... Like, I'd heard rumors of Clayface being the villain for the second Matt Reeves movie. And instead of doing like the actual Clay monster, they were going to do like a down-to-earth version where it's like the guy making the different masks and stuff like that, which I didn't know, but I guess is like the origins of the character, making realistic masks and like fooling everybody all the time. And I was like, that actually sounds like a really fun movie. I didn't really like the Riddler in the Batman. So like whenever I heard the way they were gonna try and do Clayface, I was actually pretty interested in that. They should have done individual movies for a time, then launched the DCU. Constantine 2, right after John Wick ended, was right there, but Gunn won't commit. Yeah, I don't disagree with that take. Like, I mean, like I always said crisis event, but like even if they would have just let the DCEU dwindle and then like kind of gone back to the old way of doing things in the early 2000s where like not everything's interconnected, but like you're still getting like different movies about these different characters. And then like yeah, maybe you can lead up to like an interconnected world if you decide to, and then you can pick and choose. But like yeah, Constantine 2 would be a fun one. I like the first Constantine movie a lot, even though it's like I don't know, Keanu Reeves is a really weird Constantine choice. Like, like um he's not a British man. So they're already doing it. Sergeant Rock, Clayface. Yeah. Yeah, I mean like I didn't think that like and I understand he's trying to do like what he considers like the Star Wars way of doing things where it's like you're just getting like pieces of or like different stories in an already established world, which I'm kind of cool with. Um, I know, but it's Hollywood, baby. Um, so like I don't know how Clayface fits into that. I don't know how Sergeant Rock fits into that because I think they're supposed to still be in the DCU. It's just like now instead of it being like, hey, you're watching the next episode of the DCU, it's more of like, hey, here's this thing that was happening over here as well, and it's just like in the same world. Um, which I don't know. I kind of like it's a double-edged sword. I think whenever you start ramping up production on content, like that really bit like Marvel in the ass. So like it's hard to say if that's like the move, but I do have to get off here. I gotta get to my other stuff in life. I got other stuff in my life to do besides just talking about DC movies. So I'm very sorry, but I gotta go. Thanks for stopping by. Um, we will continue this conversation in the Discord. I'm sure. I'm sorry I clickbaited you so hard. I couldn't help myself. It was a total troll move and I knew it. So, y'all take care. How do I do all this? I forgot how to. Oh wait, go to my website and go to my Redbubble. Bye.